Hey, teachers, you're listening to the thing that we do on Fridays. One of the very last ones, not the last ones, but we're winding up. Uh, the year 2025, the Doctrine and Covenants year. You're listening with me, Brother Lawson, Brother Wing. How you doing, Brother Wing?
Doing fan.
You, you cut out there. You said I just heard
Oh,
you say doing fan, and I don't know
oh,
what the rest of the word is.
is tastic was the rest of the word.
That's good. That's good. Well, uh, teachers, you're in the month of December. You may be tempted just to show uh, Disney movies, which would be a bad idea. But we do have some good content to study the last couple of weeks of December. We got some good stuff this week. We are studying we're using the Articles of Faith this week, Brother Wing, and I have a little bit of PTSD about the Articles of Faith.
Really?
Yeah.
I think you're the first person that's ever told me this.
Really? Well, the I when I was 10 years old, my dad was my Sunday school teacher,
Uh-huh.
and he was telling the class, he's like, "Hey, whoever memorizes the Articles of Faith, I'm going to give you this big old bag of Starburst." And um I was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to do it first." But how can I do it without actually memorizing the Articles of Faith? So I like read over them a few times and stuff, and the next Sunday, I show up and I'm like, Dad, I'm ready. I'm ready to pass off the Articles of Faith. Now, I think my dad knew that I had not put any effort, like the effort needed to memorize the Articles of Faith. And so I think he made up a rule on the spot and he said, "All right, that's good. We'll have you pass them off right now. But every time you miss a word, I'm just gonna take out one of these Starburst candies from this big giant bag of Starburst." So I'm like, okay, all right. And so I started by the end, by the time I was done, there were like three Starbursts left in the bag. And so it was terrible.
Man, he worked you over.
It did. You know what? I never completely memorized the Articles of Faith, probably because of that. So whenever I'm in a meeting and everyone's like, "What is the eighth article of faith?" I'm like, "I don't know what that one is." Everybody recite it. Then I just think back to those Starbursts.
Wow. So
Oh,
this is what not to do in seminary.
oh,
Articles.
absolutely. This is a great, actually, that's a great teaching moment right there that I
Yeah.
just shared with all the teachers. So
Yeah.
that is. All right, bro, tell us what we're doing this week.
All right, so we've got a life preparation lesson to start off the week on Monday. It's lesson 210, which is a template for studying messages from General Conference or talks like that. So you got your flexibility teachers, like pick a talk that you think would be useful, and uh, and then there's a lot of ideas within that framework there to how you would set that up. One idea would be to take the bookmark, have the students pick a question, and then go into the text
Wow.
of that talk. But there are lots of other ways to engage interest and kind of set the stage for relevance as they study a general conference talk.
Excellent.
Then we
Excellent.
got Articles of Faith, Official Declaration 1 and 2. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then an Assess Your Learning lesson on Friday.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. Well, let's talk about the articles of faith. Want to do that?
Hmm.
So I think in the teacher's manual there's a pretty good scripture feasting activity in there. Um you scroll down a ways and you get to the articles of faith study activity and you choose that you I mean this is scripture feasting esque, right? You choose one of the articles of faith you want to study and you just write on the board a couple of questions. What eternal truth or truths do you learn from this article of faith? And how can the teachings of this article of faith impact your relationship with Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ? That's pretty good little study. Step two has something a little like of that. I don't really like step two, number A or letter A.
Yeah, you
Memorize the
wouldn't.
article of faith. That's a
Yeah.
terrible idea. No, I'm actually pro memorization of scripture and articles of faith. I have a mental block. If maybe you know a therapist that can help me get through this, I'd actually really like to memorize the articles of faith. Um, maybe I'll set a goal for 2026 to finally memorize all the articles of faith.
I think there's a lot of teachers that are going to be sending you some starbursts out of sympathy.
I'm gonna do it. You heard it here first. That's gonna be my goal. I do have them all memorized. I just can't tell you which one they are. Like you tell me like Article of Faith 11 and I start to panic. Like I'm
Yeah,
even saying that out loud, I'm sweating.
you're
So
like, we have 11?
there's 11 of them. When did we add the 11th one? So I know where to find them. All right. I like this step B or step two, letter B. Find related scriptures or statements from church leaders that relate to the article of faith that you choose. Now we're mastering the articles of faith. That's pretty cool. Um, so there's the art thing. I'm not a big art guy, but some of your students are art people. Like they can draw the article of faith. I think it's great for people to draw the article of faith. It's for people who it's like what Bruce R. McConkie says about the book of Job. Job is for people who like the book of Job. Drawing the articles of faith are for people who like to draw the articles of faith. So I like that activity in there. That's right there in the teacher's manual. You guys can read through that. What would you do on the articles of faith day, Browing?
Yeah, I like this too. If this seems complex at all, or you don't like to draw, or you hate the book of Job, then you could go to uh, a question answer type thing. So this is what I wanted to do is I just wanted to have my students read the 13 articles of faith. Just let's just get a quick overview of them. Read them all. And then I was going to challenge my students come up with 5 important questions that the articles of faith answer. So somewhat of a maybe a Jeopardy format. Like here's the answers. Now you come up with the question um, that would be important. Like it's not you're not these aren't frivolous questions that you're coming up with here. But and so I would that would be interesting to me to hear everyone's questions, and then to me this would show how relevant these are. If they come up with good questions, right, which I think they can, um, then you can kind of see how these are worth memorizing and using because they answer all these questions, and they also help us to explain our beliefs to others in a quick, easy way, and we can adapt the wording as needed when we're in conversations with friends or others or on our mission or whenever. But that might be another idea that you could use that might be more simple.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. On to the official declarations. Okay, no controversy here, right? We're just going. Yeah, official declaration one is this will be the official declarations might be a bit of a revelation to your students. Not many of them may have seen these in their scriptures, but this could be new territory for them. So it's kind of exciting. I always like that. That's kind of one of the things I like about the Old Testament is that we got fresh powder, as we say in Utah here, to make new tracks. And so giving students the opportunity to read the official declaration, I actually think that's how I would start it. I would have them read well, I'd have them read the whole official declaration one just because there's such great background and historical context mentioned in the declaration. President Woodruff is very clear and about why and when and how important it is to follow the will of the Lord here. And so this might be an opportunity for you to have your students feast on an official declaration where they are reading to understand, but also they can even using the bookmark on this, like especially they might have further questions about this. But one of the things I'd love for them to read is or one to think about as they're studying official declaration one is what difference does it make? What difference does a prophet make? Right. And so as they read this and they read the background, they should start to think about like this is a pretty big change for Latter-day Saints. This is a big moment for them. And what difference does a prophet make? What would it have been like to have a prophet say something that was um, that changed their way of life, something that a way they've been living for 50 years, and now all of a sudden it's changing. So what difference can a prophet make? What difference does following a prophet make? And what challenges might pop up as we seek to follow a prophet? So this will be your students might have lots of questions about that. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know, and don't be afraid just to let them read this, let them read the whole thing and figure it out, and maybe help them, give them opportunities to share testimonies of the prophet today, of President Oaks, and the importance of following him. What do you think, Bro Wing?
Yeah, love that. Love the reading of the text here. And another way is just to say, hey, students, did was plural marriage practiced in this church, before? They would say yes. Did it end? They would say yes. And then I would say, how did it end? And like, when did it end and how did it end? And that's the part where they might be like, okay,
Great.
all right,
Yeah.
let's just read. Let's go straight to the text and let's learn when and how this ended. I like the how especially because I want to emphasize as they study the text and highlight the fact that it is the Lord that ended it, you know, and this is revelation. And so this is a great topic that, in my opinion, I don't know what you would say on this, Brother Lawson, but in my opinion, teachers are more concerned about this topic than
Right.
students.
100%. 100%.
Um, and so teachers just be at ease. It's okay. Like, and if you're concerned, maybe you're not. But just let's talk about this. Let's read what's here. They might have questions that you may or may not be able to answer, which is fine because there's a load of resources that students can go to get that are trustworthy resources. If they do want more information, that's great. We can point them to that. But what I want to emphasize is the fact that this is another example of the Lord speaking through prophets.
Right.
And I started to go back and be like, because there's the criticism that people were like, oh, they just caved to political pressure, or,
Right.
it
Right.
it wasn't revelation. It was just they kind of were forced into it. And if they weren't forced into it, we'd still be practicing
Yeah.
plural like that. It's like silly. Um, but um, then I started like thinking back and I was like, wait, well, the revelation before this one, at least in our text, is the Joseph F. Smith revelation, section 138. I mean, there was a ton of outward circumstances that led to his questions. I mean, he was familiar with death in so many ways. And so then he had some questions about life after death. And then that opened up the revelation. And I just started thinking about all these other places where, yeah, outward circumstances create questions and desire for to seek the Lord. And then here's another example of the Lord actually speaking and revealing things and making a big change as well. And so it's a controversial topic, of course, but overall, I see this as like a highlight of God's
Oh,
power,
yeah.
God's choices, and what we do, we seek that wisdom and light, and you can see it in the text. So that's what I want the students to see, and then they can. I'm not trying to pass off the topic, but to be honest, plural marriage doesn't affect my day today in 2025 at all. Like,
We're all
as far as
grateful for that.
yeah, yeah. So, and I think for so many others, right? We just live in a different time period than they lived then, which I
Right.
respect what they went through then. But the principles that are taught here can be super relevant to my day because I know that if I'm facing something difficult, I can turn to the Lord,
Yeah.
and I know
Yep.
that no matter what's going on in our world, as chaotic and crazy as it might be, we are led by a prophet, you
Yeah.
know? And these are just two of many things that I can get out of this experience studying it.
Yep. Well, and the second one, official declaration two, is I think there's some similar principles, even though this was much closer to us in history. I mean, it was we're coming up on 50 years ago, so maybe that wasn't maybe that seems like a long time to your students. It doesn't seem like a long time to us because we're about that age.
Yeah, we were
Uh,
we were we were alive when this is.
right, right. But again, sometimes one of the things I learned, I served my mission in the Caribbean. I was for lots of times I was the only white person I saw for the whole day. Like my companions were black. I didn't see white people at all. And so and they're all the members of the church were black. And again, um you might be surprised to know that I think the topic of race in the priesthood came up a total of 0 times from members of the church or people when I served for 2 years in my mission in the West Indies. And but that's not to say that people don't have questions about it, or the questions just that we can't ask questions about it. It's again, this is another great example of your students are going to again have them read official declaration too. Have them learn about. Some of them might not know that there was a time when black people weren't allowed to, or I should say, people of African descent were not allowed to hold the priesthood. There's a lot to learn about this. They're not going to learn all of it in one class, but at least they should read official declaration too. Again, they might have questions about the history of it. There's great gospel topic essays about race in the priesthood that they can read about. Ultimately, one of the main questions that's asked is why. Why is it that a certain race was not able to hold the priesthood? The official answer, and the answer that you should give teachers, is I don't know. There's lots of speculation, but there just is not an official declaration of the doctrine of why, right? And so anything that you say beyond I don't know is just speculation and probably not super helpful. Um, so again, I would have them read the declaration, encourage them. Oh man, encourage them to ask questions about that, and talk about. I might mention how right now the growth of the church right now in Africa is ridiculous. It's amazing how the church is growing and what a blessing it is. That growth never would have happened if priesthood wasn't available to all worthy individuals. Um, so let them ask questions, encourage them to ask questions about it. Don't be afraid to say I don't know. Um, but they will learn. They'll learn from that official declaration. They'll feel the love that prophet has, and they'll feel the love that the Lord has for all of his children as they study official declaration number 2. So what do you think, Brother Wing? What else would you do here?
Yeah, that was well explained, and I like the video that's in the teacher manual. It's down there underneath the question that says, "How has the Lord blessed you or people you know because of acting in faith?" And then there's a video there. It's like 4 minutes long. Great story, and I think it would provide a perspective that would be useful. You could start off with this or use it in the middle of the discussion as you continue to study this. I mean, obviously read official declaration 2. You could start it the same way that I suggested the other one, like were those of African descent uh, kept from holding the priesthood for a while in this church? Yes. Can they now? Yes. Okay, so when did that start, and how did that start?
Right.
How was that change initiated? Well, here's official declaration 2. Read it, and see what's there. And so, but I also like this point to be made, and you can do this with official declaration 1 and 2. Um, is if there's concerns or there's questions or even teachers, have you sensed that maybe there's something that's like not quite settled? You've done your best to like study, explain, discuss, and you can just, if there's some unsettled feeling, in the room, um, or if there's not unsettled feeling in the room, I'd still do this anyway. I want to point my students to the Book of Mormon. Elder Corbett once said that the Book of Mormon is the most racially unifying book in the world.
Oh yeah,
And so that's a bold claim.
right.
And so if racism is a concern, or you're worried about it, or you want to eradicate it, or you just are bothered by any of it at any point in the past, well, the book of, apparently, according to Elder Corbett, the best book to read is the Book of Mormon. And if you are concerned about the truthfulness of this church or how it's been led by prophets, or if it's led by prophets, another maybe the best place to go, right? Read the Book of Mormon. And so with our questions, our concerns, we want to be settled. We want to understand. We want to go forward in peace. We want to have answers here. I'm not saying don't study the other stuff, the gospel topics, essays, and other trustworthy resources. But fundamental to going forward in peace related to these controversial topics or any others is our connection with the Book of Mormon. So read the Book of Mormon, be tight with the Book of Mormon, know that the Lord speaks, because of your diligent study of the Book of Mormon and all of these other questions will at least um, be eased in some way to understand them, be able to put them in context, and be able to peacefully go about seeking more answers.
Yeah. I'll tell you a great story real quickly. So one of my good friends who lives in Trinidad, he lived when he was 12 years old, 11 years old, turning 12 in 1978. He lived in England, and he and his mom had joined the church like a year or two previously. They were the only black members of the church in their ward there in England, um, and slowly, his friends started to turn 12. All of his white friends started to turn 12, and they were able to pass the sacrament. And so he was, in his mind, he was expecting, like, that's gonna be cool. When I turn 12, I'm gonna be able to pass sacrament. Well, he turned 12 and was told that he wouldn't be able to pass the sacrament. He couldn't have the priesthood. And he said, why can't I do that? And they said, well, because you're black, right? And he was ticked off.
Oh,
he
yeah.
he told his mom, he's like, Mom, did you know that I can't pass the sacrament because I'm black? And she's like, yes. And he says, what, why are we a part of a racist church? We should get out of this church right now. And his mom, she's a bigger lady, and she's an amazing lady. I know her. I know his mom pretty well. He said she grabbed him and just so tightly and pulled him right into her face and said, you better gain a testimony of Joseph Smith. This is at the beginning of 1978. She said, you better gain a testimony of Joseph Smith right now, because he is a prophet of God and the Book of Mormon is true. And so he was still mad, but he started to read the Book of Mormon. He'd never really read the Book of Mormon before, and he knew that it was true. And he knew he gained a testimony in that it was absolutely true. And as he was sitting in his house, the someone from the ward ran over to the house, knocked, didn't even knock on the door, just knocked and ran in the house and just yelled. They'd found out that the all worthy males could hold the priesthood, and he gained his testimony before that even happened. And so it was kind of a cool little story that my buddy Gavin shared.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
great.
All right. Well, do we got anything else to talk about, Brother Wing?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, with that said, we'll go Cougars. Till next time, everybody. Love your guts. Stay righteous.